And I can only say that after those experiences, meat to me smells like hot death, because that is the smell that permeates the slaughterhouse. I can't associate it with anything edible. It conjures up memories to me of all the animals I have watched going down with their feet stuck in those clamps or being hung up by the neck. And their eyes are always wide, and they are always so afraid. Dog, chicken, cow, calf. And it's always as if they look at you and they say, "Help me, this cannot be happening to me." They have never, I don't care what anyone in the farming industry says, those animals never expect that moment to come. It is just too horrific. If the smell of meat still smells good to you, I would say force yourself, please, and go and watch one of the films that's here of the little pigs going down the ramp to their deaths, or the little chickens looking up and seeing the man with the knife in front of them. It really is worth forcing yourself to do it. Human beings should be in awe of all the other animals. They're never greedy. They live well on the earth. They don't despoil it. They don't pollute it. They live simply. It isn't because of them that the sun is searing into the earth, bringing starvation to the peoples of Africa, that no one can drink from our waterways, that sparrows are dying throughout Europe, frogs are disappearing in South America, and penguins are found floating dead in the Antarctic. An albatross was the first to go around the world and knew that the world was round before we did, and did it without instruments. Dolphins use sonar. Ants construct boats to cross rivers. We should be in awe. Our own species has trashed the place. The supermarket has replaced all the natural food and pharmacies. The Congo is disappearing, and with it the most amazing examples of life, of foods, and of medicine. Inside those jungles are elephants, chimpanzees, monkeys, antelopes, small rodents, leopards, tree frogs, crocodiles, birds, insects, and deer. Millions and millions of them. Yet unlike our cities, their ground is rich with vegetation. The forest canopy provides shade. The rivers are clear, and the food is abundant. In 5 years, it will almost all be gone. And because we humans here have so much greed, not need, but greed, that we want more rubber, more minerals, we want more logs, more lumber, we just want more. That's what our species is defined as. We gorge ourselves on foods that cause heart attacks and strokes and cancers, and then we torment animals in laboratories in the hope of finding pills that will allow us to continue to gorge ourselves. In the animal kingdom, animals don't succumb to heart attack and cancer and stroke in these ways. They eat what nature intended. They remain healthy. They use natural medicines. Our species is so proud of having language, yet we ignore the fact that the elephant mothers talk to their babies subsonically. That means at frequencies that are too low for us to hear without instruments. And rats do the same thing. Rhinos use breathing signals as messages, and tree frogs tap out their messages on the logs. Even the tiniest little insect produces too high-pitched and too fast sounds for us to interpret. Over 1,700 different dolphin whistles have been recorded. We don't bother to record the sounds of those animals. It would be too inconvenient for us to know about. We're doing to beavers and coyotes and prairie dogs what was done to Native American human beings just a wink of an eye ago. We are destroying their land. We're seizing their families. We're poisoning and shooting them in cold blood. It is our species' failure to understand all the other species on the planet and to go into space to look for intelligent life when it's all around us that is the problem. It is our species' greed. We should be in awe of animals, and we should look to ourselves for what motivates us to carry on through life, and what our values are, and what our principles are, and what our level of understanding of others truly is. It won't be easy to change society. After 9/11, people said, How can you care about animals? Simple. Because compassion is not some miserly pot out of which you can only take a spoonful. Caring isn't like a few gold sovereigns bound up in a rag that you can pick out one at a time. It has to be limitless. Looking out for your baby or your friend is easy. The test of moral fiber is to stick up for those you relate to least, those you understand minimally, and those you do not think are that much like you. For them, ground zero is every single day. They are terrified, slaughtered, and in danger every minute. Humans are their terrorists. And this is about them, but it's also about us. It's about whether our hearts are big enough to look after the least of them. That's why the animal rights movement is a movement we can be proud of. I have a word for those of us who are here from our opposition. Every time we step inside a laboratory, we find what are nicely called problems. We've stopped many experiments, but we still discover monkeys with infected headworms because the researchers don't know how to affix their electrode caps. We still find mice who are being bled from the eye, rats who are having their tails or their heads cut off with scissors and just an ice cube to numb them. Can you imagine having your finger cut off and putting an ice cube on it to numb it? Every time we step inside a factory farm, we find problems. We have changed much, but we still find pigs beaten with metal rods, animals having their hoofs cut off while they're still conscious, and animals left to die of black lung and broken bones without so much as a drop of water or a painkiller, every single time. And every time we look into the fur, the leather, or the wool industry, we find animals chewing off their own legs in traps, going mad in their tiny filthy cages, left to suffer out in the fields through all winter cold and sweltering summer heat without relief. And we find them beaten, anally electrocuted, gassed, stomped to death, or shipped live to the Middle East every single time. So those of you who are sitting here from industry, who we may not recognize right off the bat, please have this in your minds. Pork isn't the other white meat. It's the remains of a dead pig. Furriers don't sell natural fabrics. They sell pieces of carcass. Cures for diseases don't depend on using animals. Only your mortgage does. As for all the false equations, your child or the dog, Hans Rusch said it best. He said, not a single child's life has been saved by a dog unless the child was drowning. It is our opposition who are the terrorists. Every one of them who does not actively work for change in the way we treat animals in the society is a terrorist. I have one more thing to say to them. Remember this. Rights movements never go away. They always get stronger. They always attract more people. And there is no point whatsoever in wasting your time fighting them, because we will grow and we will win. And that's a fact. If you don't know this area, you may not know that a little way away from here is Gallaudet College, which is the school for deaf students. And about 10 years ago, there was a significant uprising there. The deaf students wanted a deaf president, but the Board of Regents wanted them to have a hearing president. And the students, they appointed a hearing president, but the students refused to go to class. They went on strike. And the Board of Regents tried everything, but they couldn't get them to go back to school. And so in the end, the students won, and a deaf president was appointed. Well, the leader of the student revolt wrote an editorial in the Washington Post. I'll never forget it. He said, when slaves rose up against their masters,